especially to the Bhavini Mahato Center for Women Studies. And right now, I shall invite Shayantan Moitra sir, our next speaker. Sir is a curator, cultural entrepreneur, architect, and scenographer. He's an architect by qualification and has a career in art by choice. As a scenographer, he has produced and designed several museum shows of international stature, which led him to explore as a visual artist who does site-specific interventions with Layout Collective and curatorial insertions in public spaces. Sir is the chief coordinator of non-governmental organization Shelter Promotion Council India. It's a voluntary organization consisting of social activities, architects, engineers, scientists, artists, environmentalists, and planners. The council has produced public art festivals in Sikkim called Blooming Sikkim Public Art Festival and Hornbill Public Art Festival in Nagaland, the first of its kind, which comprised a melange of new media art and contemporary art addressing issues of socio-political and environmental nature in northeast of India. It has produced No Man's Land, which is a public art project at the international border of India and Bangladesh in East Khasi Hills, Meghalaya. Sir is the proprietor of interactive design firm called Illusion in Motion and is based in Kolkata. Sir has an architectural studio which is based in Kolkata and Durgapur both. He was visiting faculty in the School of Planning and Architecture in New Delhi, of which Sir is also an alumni. He is a India Foundation for the Arts grantee 2017-18 on his work with the Naga tribes and architecture of Nagaland. And also, I actually find time constraint in introducing Sir because I have so much information regarding his publications and his works and his curatorial illustrations and everything. So I'm really falling short of time. I'm so sorry for not being able to read out the entire thing. I'm really sorry, and now I invite you to please take over the mic and enlighten us. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Shumantru. Thanks a lot to SKBU for inviting me. It's a pleasure and good afternoon to everyone. Today, after hearing two very engrossing conversations, I would like to reflect upon and also look with you and see with you and hear with you certain things which I'm going to present, I'm going to show you. So this is going to be more of an audiovisual presentation. So I'll start by sharing. Can you see my screen? Can someone say whether they can see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I will start. So my presentation basically is about the idea of violence against women and how several artists, contemporary artists, have dealt with it personally in their personal lives. I would say artists exploring personal lives, between fiction and reality and many other things. So because we have been hearing about gender violence and all those things, I would just ask some questions and then I would go further. This screen which you're seeing right now is by these famous collective called Gorilla Girls from US. And
so I can only see you. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I'm just able to see you. I'm not able to see any other screen.
You're not able to see the screen?
No. I don't know about others, but I can just see you.
Can you just see this? Okay, I'm just stop sharing.
No, I can see. Yeah, it's visible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but this is visible. We can see it. Yeah.
But this is visible. Sir. This is visible.
Yeah, this is highly visible. Yes, it is.
Can you screen again? Is my screen visible?
Not now.
Okay.
Not now.
Earlier it was visible. Yeah.
Earlier it was visible.
Okay. So
The way you started, now when you have just started,
Yeah.
it was visible. It was going fine. It was going
Yeah.
perfectly
Yeah,
all right.
that's right.
Okay, I wasn't able to see. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That
can you see
happens.
my
Yeah.
screen again? Is my
Yeah, now it's visible. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Yes.
okay? So
Yeah, visible, sir, visible.
yes, great, super. So we have heard a lot about the idea of violence and all that, but I'll still tell you certain things. And when as a curator of contemporary art, I am provoked with certain questions with my fellow artists. Been asking several questions, and it also is to do with themselves. So questions like I would have just read out a little. India is quickly rising as a world power, except for half its population. The women across the country struggle to live life with dignity. Women, irrespective of their class, caste, and educational status, are not safe in contemporary society. Women have been the victims of exploitation since a long time in different fields of their lives, physically, socially, mentally, and economically. There are several causes of sexual as well as moral abuse, which are very often highlighted by the media, but a lot of those remain unexplored. Violence against women, sexual harassment, exploitation of women is not of recent origin, and its trace is found in the history of ancient India. Women are facing problems in every sphere of life, whether employment, access to healthcare, or property rights. India is developing fast, but women in India continue to be discriminated. The declining sex ratio in our country amply portrays the discrimination shown toward girls at the very stage of their birth. They are victims of crime directed specifically at them: rape, kidnapping and abduction, dowry related crimes, molestation, sexual harassment, eve teasing, etc. It is realized that the long run dominance of male over female in all respect within the patriarchal society in India is highly responsible for arresting the empowerment of women. When we talk about art and culture, this is another image, which a poster which Gorilla Girls, who started their career in the early 90s. These were a collection of women artists and theoreticians who decided that they will wear these masks of gorilla and they will take up names of artists. So they represent themselves as artists who are already dead women artists. So this is a very famous poster by the Gorilla Girls, where you can read it. So you can only enter 5% artists are actually represented in museums, and but the artworks are all about nudes who are female. So this is one this thing. I would right now go to in India when we talk about contemporary art.
Can you guess what these girls are picking up? Red hairy caterpillars, RHCs. You know why they're picking them up? Because the landowners have offered 10 rupees per kg. So you have to collect about 1200 to 1300 in order to get 10 rupees, but they're collecting them. And then your hands get all kinds of little itchy problems because you're handling pests. And you're handling pests that have been sprayed with pesticide. If you notice very carefully, there are actually 3 girls. So these girls are drinking in that pesticide, they're handling pesticide, not once, not twice, but 1200, 1300 times each time you pick up one of these and put it into the bucket. The morning I was there, they collected about 4 buckets. This is from Jabua in Madhya Pradesh. Look at the quality of the land, the stones, and it's very stony and very, it doesn't look great land yet. They will not let you remove the stones from the soil. This is on a river bank. Okay, it's sloping into the river. And they say that the stones bind the soil. Okay, so you don't remove them. The runoff will be greater if there were no stones. This is my favorite photograph in many, many ways. You know what I call this? I call this the India photograph. There's a reason. When I was looking through the lens, what struck me was this. The man, the landowner, is alone and upright. The women are doubled over. That's 1 followed by 9 zeros. That's 1 billion. That's India. 10% of the men are owners and the women are mostly laborers. Of course, there are women in the owners as well, but in the world of work, that's about it. 1 followed by 9 zeros, and the population had just crossed 1 billion, or was just fast approaching 1 billion when I shot that photograph. I actually cheated the landlord a bit and told him come and stand in the photograph and everything else, because he was getting more and more alarmed at my being around talking to the women.
This was P. Sainath, the famous the photographer and an activist who started People's Archive of Rural India. And why I'm showing you these images of his, and he's basically talking about these images which he had collected for years, several years, for last 25 to 30 years. And there's two very big divides in India, which is the rural India and the urban India. So this urban India is something which is highly represented by several artists from our country. Actually, all the artists are segregated, and they are in these urban-centric smaller towns or the bigger towns. But rural India is highly, avoided. Even in films right now, contemporary films have no, it doesn't show any rural aspects right now. I will follow another short work of his, and then I go to the next one.
I call this picture as about mothers. The lady is pregnant. This lady. She's tending to the cow. She's milking the cow. The cow is looking after its calf. It's about mothers. Right? This is one of my favorite scenes, always in that particular village. Notice that the woman who's tending the buffalo, she's bringing back the buffalo from grazing. Look at her body language, firm, upright, confident, no fear. The buffalo is getting increasingly agitated. It's pawing the ground because it sees one little aggressor here waiting for it. The dog. Every day they go through this charade. As she brings the buffalo through that path, the dog is waiting to harass the buffalo. Then as they come closer, the dog will start barking, the buffalo starts getting agitated and pawing the ground. The woman will pick up an imaginary stone and throw it at the dog. The dog will yelp as if he's been hurt, which he is not. And next day they will all go through the same scene again. Okay, it's like everybody feels this is mandatory. I have to do it. This, very honestly, I took this picture first and foremost, I took this picture because that nose ring was so beautiful. Isn't her nose ring beautiful? That was the first thing. But then, when I thought, what a beautiful nose ring. And the silver hair, white dress, silver hair, silver jadu, and silver nose ring. And then I noticed that the way she was bent and cleaning, it's like she's holding up the roof on her back. Huh? Like she's taking the weight of the roof. Figuratively, she does actually take the weight of the roof of her home. Here it looked almost literal. This is the weakest, most defenseless category of citizens in India. This is a Dalit woman in Rajasthan. Her name is Patasi Bai. She's carrying human excreta on her head. The so-called manual scavengers are all mostly women. Just like we say man days, but most of the work is done by women. This Patasi Bai will get, for cleaning up the shit in people's homes, in dry latrines, in those days, between 98 and 2000, she would get 1 roti a day per household and 5 rupees a month per household, whose latrines she was keeping clean. And it's a demeaning, humiliating, dignity-breaking imposition that the caste system and our caste societies make on human beings. But there's maybe there's more than 1 million Patasi Bais in the country who actually do this work.
There is a growing body of evidence where from research which suggests that violence against women is highly prevalent, and with an estimated of 1 out of 3 women globally experiencing some form of victimization in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood. Do these women even realize that they are undergoing violence? And if they do they have the courage to speak up? If they speak up, who can they really turn to for help? Do her family members send her back to the same environment? When we as relatives, neighbors, or bystanders witness a woman facing violence, do we step forward to help, or do we just walk on, pretending like it is not happening? Is it the police we have a ready response, stating that domestic violence is a private matter, and they often cannot deal with it? In case of physical injuries, women go to healthcare facilities. Are the doctors going beyond medical care to ask them about their difficult family situation? There are NGOs around, but why are women survivors hesitant to approach NGOs? Why are NGOs generally blamed of breaking families, and why are there negative undertones to women empowerment? There are many questions that we need to ask in a society like ours, which has its social moorings in a highly practical society. I'm now showing you a film by Shirin Nishat. She's a artist from Iran, but she's based in US. She has never gone back to Iran. This a lot about us in our current times.
در کشتن ما که میزنی تیر جفا ما را سر تازیان دست باشد ما را سر تازیان دست باشد
American poet Forrest Gump.
This story is not very different from anywhere else in the world. Uh, I just want to shift the location now to various places. Again, we're discussing rural India. So when we are traveling all over India, what is really lacking is our toilets. So toilets for women, especially. If we have traveled extensively in buses and roads, and and India is all about it. India is not about so much accessible only by trains or by these things. So you really have to travel a lot, and sometimes traveling would also take you hours and hours and hours of movement. But a big problem are toilets, and how would artists deal with a thing like that? So I think through more consciousness and through awareness, and one artist named Shiva Chachi, she's based in Delhi. She did a work in one of the highways of Haryana, next to a bus stop. Next to a petrol pump, where she made this fake toilet, and there were two gates to the toilet, as we have now. There's lots of Sulabh Sauchalayas these days. So she made this toilet. One said gents and one said ladies. So you walk into that toilet and you see a golden urinal, and in that there was also a sound, a voiceover of women actually sharing their stories of how they experience problem while traveling on the roads. So it was a very important work at a time when probably this toilet, Sulabh Sauchalayas and all this had not come up at that point. So I will go to another part of the country now, which is Manipur, and I want to show you this film by a filmmaker called Joshi Joseph, and how he is looking at a situation.
In this program, we hear a
I hope we haven't forgotten her yet. I am Sharmila. And in 2016, I think, after 16 years of fasting, the only person who had fasted so long in this current world, she was rebelling against AFSPA, basically the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which so many times violated women more than anything else besides men in northeast of India and also Kashmir. And we have other forms of it now. So this woman has been fighting for it for 16 years, and she's called prisoner of conscience by Amnesty. So we are also looking at places where, women had taken up voices, and very strong women like Sharmila. There's another instance I would want to talk about is a beautiful story, a story as a narrative. And this is a story in Ukhrul. And the story is like this. A young girl in 1985 or 90, was it? She was raped by the army, 2-3 officers of the Indian Army, in a small village in Ukhrul, in Manipur district. So she was a Tangkhul Naga, and she was raped and murdered, assaulted. So her neighbor called Zamtingla Muiba, she started making these Naga shawls. So we all know that the Nagas have a very important gesture. What they do is, if you want to identify a Naga, it's about the shawls he or she is wearing. It talks about identity. It talks about their surroundings. It talks about their tribe. So she started. So all these, how you know these shawls, what status you are in, are through these various symbols and signs which have been depicted forever, for ages, since the Naga tribes had formed, and not only Nagas, tribal India. So she started to use these symbols in these shawls, talking about the stories of atrocities which were done by the Indian Army on these shawls. And as a gesture of solidarity, the people started wearing them. So the Tangkhul people would wear these shawls, and in several occasions. So if you see these tiny symbols in detail, they are all about the stories, and they're so cryptic for us to even understand what they are. But like some contemporary artists and curators have really worked hard to understand, justify why this woman, who's a neighbor and an artist, who's been continuously doing these stories in shawls. I will now go to another story, and this is from Bangladesh. And this work is called Unveiling Womanhood, and this artist is Taiba Begum Lipi. And I would suggest that we we see this and hear this and, experience this in silence, and then I'll again speak. This work was about the idea of the chador and how Bangladeshi women right now have suddenly started wearing this veil as a form of a fashion, new fashion. But I will not go there. That's what the artist says. But for me, the last two sessions we were hearing about, and that is why I'm not being very vocal about things, because I want us to now experience we have immense knowledge of what is happening around the world right now when it comes to violence against women. But my idea is here to actually see how women artists or even artists of other gender are sharing this experience. Can they share this experience? So I think this sharing experience also comes from your life. And as I'm saying, every woman has been violated at certain point of time in the history. So how are they as women actually expressing it, taking it forward? As audience, as critics, as curators, as a general audience, are we accepting these things? Can we understand their pain? So these are works which I actually wanted to share today, rather than just speaking about it. I will also go into a question answer soon. If I'm sure you might be having lots of questions, but before this, I'm going to go and show you another body of work, which is a recent curatorial work of mine, and this is called Violence Against Women, which I had done in December this year. And this was a work, a solo show by artist Mullika Das Shutar. And she's been extensively researching on violence and atrocities against women. And so finally, after a year of research and doing several works, we decided to have this show. And I'm going to show you a couple of works of this show, and three works only, not many. So this work here, this work, I Bear It. You see, you're seeing I Bear It from this point of view. But if you move a little bit, you can see now it says I can't bear it. So this is hair cast in cement blocks, where this is how women are actually. You see them, you don't understand them, and at times it could be so unbearable that So these are text, a very interesting work which also includes text, because sometimes you have to probably say it, you have to be vocal about certain situations. So this body of work of Mullika's comes from a long study of newspapers, reports, and atrocities of various class, caste, clans on women, and how she's been using this medium of pain, of news, of facts, and how you could use them in your work. How would a woman voice it? So this was a way where she talks about it. At the back of this work are these pillow covers. So these are these quilts, not pillow covers, these are these small quilts. And what you can see here are these small things written in Bengali, and they are basically FIR reports of women victims who were murdered, they were burnt, they were slaughtered. So it tells about the name of the person, where she died from. So it's basically a FIR, a first-hand information report, which she sew up, and that's the work. So it's a very sensible work, and basically she's kind of talking about the dead, because they don't have voices anymore. So she's narrating like 8 to 10 stories of what happened, how she died, and things like that. And so these are narrations. There were also many sound works in this, but it's a very poetic work of violence, because the dead doesn't have any voice anymore. I'll go to another work of hers, and this is about social justice and things. So another object which this artist have made. So it's a book. It's a book. It's a law book. And again, how women. So basically, this is what I had to show you. I did not want you or wanted you to be given a direct interpretation of any of these works, because these are multi-layered, and there could be, you can take it from multiple viewpoints and experience these works. See, these are works which challenges religion, marriage, family on several levels, and of course identity. It is about also this notion of identity and trying to raise awareness. And today especially, I didn't want to be on that tutorial level to actually show you through every work, but it is your personal experience which will help you read these works. And that is why, after two very important conversations which were highly academic in nature, I wanted to show you a different perspective, which was more experiential, which comes from people's mind and heart together. And that is how I would like to end. If any of you have any questions, I am willing to take this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Basically, a student of ours, who's Annapurna Mukherjee, she has posted a question saying she did not understand the last video. Well, it was not this last video. Basically, she was talking about Sharmila Chanu's video.
Yeah.
Okay.
one honey drop. So if I know you don't want to give us any direction as such, but if you could just
No, of course. This is a question.
just sum it up. Something.
Yes, just summing it up, it is about this woman, the only woman in this world who could be striking against the entire patriarchy. For 16 years, she did not eat. That's something else. So she protested against AFSPA, about this rule, about how the army should not violate any human being, any human right. A woman can do that. And she lays a precedence throughout the world. So she's not just an Indian anymore. She's a woman of the world. And if you see the background of this film, where she's trying to take that honey, you can see that pain of 16 years of that struggle. She's breaking that fast. And if you see behind her is patriarchy. They want her to stop, but we should not. That's the message by the filmmaker, probably.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And with this, we basically come to an end of the technical session 1. Sayantan sir, it has been a pleasure to have you, to hear you and to go through the video. And of course, this is something that we don't do on a regular basis. We hear a lot of academic deliberations and we are nonetheless enriched by them, but this was something new, this was something path-breaking. Thank you so much, and we would want to have you again very soon. We would want to have you again. Thank you so much.